You sexy, sexy people. So lovely to connect with all of you today. It was supposed to be raining here today, and it ended up being pretty damn sunny, so it's so nice. What a lovely thing. Welcome to those of you joining now, and welcome to those of you who will be watching the replay once this is done. This is the 4th week out of 5 of Ignite Your Dating and Relationship Confidence. It's a series that I've started off with. In the first week, I helped you decide what it is that you want. In the second week, you made sure to believe that what you desire, that you can actually achieve it. In the third week, I helped you embody the person and the experience that you want to be in your desire now, and not wait for someone to fulfill that for you. And this week, we're working on more mindset practices. So this week is going to be like taking that whole embodiment practice and uplifting your confidence even more through what I call self-seduction lines. So you could call it mantras if you want, but what I like to call it is self-seduction lines, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So when we speak about dating and relationships, and this whole series I've been really uplifting, right? It's all about choosing from the massive potential that exists out there, whatever you want, because it's all available to you if that's what you are seeking. And of course, we talked about how your desire is your next evolution. It's your natural self expanding itself to the next version of you. So to listen to those desires and to acknowledge them and to follow them. And we can't speak of only uplifting things because dating also comes with downers. It's the nature of what it is, right? There are lots of ups and downs. It can be ecstatic and excruciating in a very short period of time. It can trigger you. It can bring up old childhood shits. It can bring up fears. It can bring up all kinds of icky, uncomfortable, awkward things, right? Outside of what is also beautiful from connecting with different people, from learning about yourself, from learning things about yourself you didn't even know existed, or that you wanted, or that you liked, right? That you enjoyed. So amidst all of that beauty, there are some challenges, and the practice that I'm going to offer today is going to be one of the ways that you can help yourself move out of some of these challenges. So what I'm speaking here is not of, let's say, long-term relationships, and then this is where you move out of a long-term relationship. There's a mourning period for this. So what I'm talking about here are when things are still volatile, when things are still new and you're not sure, it's not super committed, there are ups, there are downs. And this practice you can use today to help you move out of the this sucks, all of the things. When I first started dating, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more next week with my good friend Sophie, who will be on in the next episode for an interview. She's going to be talking about dating apps and the psychology and research behind that. And I'm really excited about that. But she has been someone who helped me tremendously. When I first started the dating process, I was a mess. I was like every little up and every little down, I would take so personally, right? It would affect me so much. I would get super excited about a little thing that would happen, something that was good, and then super destroyed when it was no longer. And of course, it's a series of this, right? Dating is a series of yes and no, and yes and no, and maybe, and unknown, and uncertainty, and all these things. So having a practice of upholding your desire, who you want to be, the experience in your body, these self-seduction lines are going to have right now, helps you stay consistent in that up-leveled and, I would say, joyful energy, or excited and ecstatic energy of what's to come, as opposed to looking at the challenge only. So we encounter a challenge in dating, and there is the challenge, there's the downer, there's the thing, but simultaneously, there's also unlimited potential of what you could achieve and what you could connect with and what you could experience. These are taking place simultaneously, right? And it's just about what we're looking at. We can look at the challenge and we can focus in on the like what's going wrong and all the things that are problematic, or we can flip over and start to look at the like, oh, but how can I turn this into an opportunity? How can I look at what just took place and see, what's going on inside me that I could start to shift, right? Because we can go in cycles. If we're not looking at, in the dating process and relationship process, if we're not looking at what's taking place, what are the patterns that keep returning over and over and over again, then we can just sit in a cycle. We're gonna do that cycle over and over and over again until we learn the lesson, until we figure out how to jump out of that cycle. The cycles are familiar. The cycles, even if it's painful, we're always going to gravitate towards what's familiar because that's what's safe, even if it's shit. We will continue to move towards the shit and the fearful place if it's familiar, because it requires us to step outside of our comfort zone, to be a little bit more daring, to go into the unknown, especially around dating, to break out of that cycle. So I'm going to say that this whole series of Ignite Your Dating and Relationship Confidence, the goal is for you to start making decisions and taking action from your empowered place, from this space of confidence. And I'm not speaking about acting confident. I'm speaking about true depth of confidence. And this is where you're taking your actions and making your decisions out of, as opposed to out of fear in case of, out of insecurity, out of anxiety that maybe, who knows, based on either how we grew up, what we experienced, past relationships, that kind of thing. Of course, there's a safety net that is perfectly fine around anxieties and around, wanting to make sure that we are in a good and safe place. But again, that decision can be made from an empowered place and not from a what if. So this is what I'm going to try and help you with today. So this practice of choosing self-seduction lines is something that has really tremendously helped me. This is something that I would say, of all the practices that we have discussed over the last month, this one is really the one that I use the most. And it's the one that has the most bang for your buck, essentially. So it's the one that if I hit a downer or I hit some kind of like period in dating that is just starts to feel like icky, I move right into these self-seduction lines, or mantras if you want to call it, and it brings me right back up. So when we started last week, if you saw the video, if you haven't, you can pause this right now and you can go check it out. It's about embodying who you want to be and what you want to experience in your dating life. Now, we spoke about how embodying that person that you want to be in the energy that you want to experience now elevates you, right? It brings you to that, it like pulls you into that next version of you that is wanting to come out, that more confident part of you that is wanting to come out, and it elevates you. It keeps you in an uplifted mood. Now, it also comes with challenges. It comes with starting to shed a light on those parts of you and the reasons why you're not there in the first place, right? So the insecurities and all those pieces will start to come up. And this is where you can start to break the cycles and start to recognize the patterns and be like, oh yeah, I keep doing the same shit. I keep calling in the same kind of person. I keep calling in the same kind of experience that's really not something that I want. So keeping this habit of moving into these mantras or self-seduction lines will help you break out of that cycle. And I'll tell you right now how you could do that. So we all have stories, right? We all have stories around what relationship is like, what dating life is like. A lot of our stories are subconscious. They are things that we learned by seeing our caregivers and how they related, by hearing terrible dating stories from other people, by experiencing terrible dating situations for ourselves. And it has created stories in our mind, and right? Stories in our subconscious around what dating is like, or what relationship is like. So some of these stories could be examples like, for a woman who's seeking out a man, there are no good men out there, right? If you're moving into dating and that's the base story, even if it's subconscious, it will change the way that you act, the type of actions that you take, the decisions that you make, if that's the foundational piece, right? Other things like when I get close to someone, it causes pain. See, like people who fear connection because it equals eventual pain. It's super common. And it doesn't mean that we're consciously thinking that all the time. Sometimes it's just an underlying layer that's really heavy and living there, that's influencing who and what and how we're approaching our dating and relationship life, right? There are other stories like people just want to take advantage of me, or I don't know. There are so many stories. So what I'm going to ask you now is to try and determine what are some of the underlying stories that you have. Because these self-seduction lines work very powerfully when you directly counter those stories. So the best mantra is the one that will really, really get in there and have the most powerful impact, directly address these stories or these negative thoughts, these thoughts that we have about dating that are keeping us in our pattern and in our cycle. So what happens if we have this underlying story? We tend to keep playing that story out without knowing that we're doing that. Almost like we're proving to ourselves that it's true. So someone who, let's say the pattern of oh yeah, I forgot to mention this one because it's a big one. There's no available men out there. No good available men, no whatever it is. Your particular version of that. If that's the underlying story, then someone will continuously seek to prove that instead of seeking to prove the opposite, which is the unlimited potential that exists out there. Someone will continue to keep proving that to themselves. It's like keeping yourself in the safety of the cycle and the pattern because it's familiar. It's what we know. It's a pain that we're used to, yeah? As opposed to, oh my gosh, the unknown. And what if actually there are a shit ton out there, tons available for me, that can lead to another version of scariness of oh wow, that means I actually have to put myself out there. It comes with all kinds of other things that can come up, right? Yeah. So we're going to use which one do we want to use? Let's use we'll just keep going with the available men thing. So the best way to go about this practice is to determine what are your stories, what are the subconscious pieces coming into play right now, and reversing that. So if I discover that one of my big stories, the stuff that I'm wow, if I look at my past relationships or dating circumstances, the patterns that keep coming up, what could be a belief under there that is creating that? What is creating the same pattern? What is preventing me from connecting? What is or helping me attach too quickly or whatever that is? What could be the reason and the underlying story that's causing those patterns in dating and in relationships that's crashing my confidence essentially and making me not believe that it's possible, and creating a self-seduction line that helps you reverse that. So if there is no available men, that's the story, that's the underlying thing, then what would be the opposite of that? I'm surrounded by incredible men or people, it doesn't matter what gender here or and any identity. I'm surrounded by people that are just perfect for me, and all I need to do is step out and meet them. That's more uplifting, no? Of course it is. And you can use that for all kinds of things. So any story that you find, one of them that I didn't mention before that's super common is this underlying belief, especially because I work a lot, I attract a lot of rebels, people who do things differently, who have countered their origin or their culture and have decided to do things in a very different way. Often we come with the story of I'm unlovable because I'm different. I do things differently. I don't do things like everyone else. And I discovered this one in myself in the last 2 months this is one direct thing that I encountered in myself, is this story of like, I'm not lovable. I'm too fucked up, right? If you can feel, some of you will recognize this in your story, in your mind, like, oh, I'm too fucked up. I can't possibly attract someone that's amazing. But what if you switch the story around using these self-seduction lines, like, I'm so lovable that whatever, ... I'm an incredibly, like, I don't know how to say this so that it'd be cutesy. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So create whatever sentence you want that really impacts you personally and use that. So once you discover some of your stories, it may be 1, it may be 3, it may be 5, use a mantra or self-seduction line that reverses that and tell them to yourself all day long. Wake up in the morning, read those lines, read those self-seduction lines, and don't just read them mindlessly. Like, feel it. Feel the fact that there is so many incredible people out there available, and all I have to do is step out. Like, feel it in your body as truth. At the beginning, you may not believe it, and it's totally okay. But over time, you'll start to embody that energy, right? We spoke about embodying last week, and this is one of the ways that you can really embody these truths and who you want to become, is by repeating these lines over and over and over again. Use them as mantras, these self-seduction lines. So you can do it in the morning. You can do it right before falling asleep at night, so that that energy really stays with you as you go to bed. Really tremendous for your to like start nudging at your subconscious to move that stuff around. Really powerful. I like to also use them when exercising or in the bath or anything relaxing. So during like a meditation, or if I'm going to do like the speed walking music thing that I do, then I will repeat that and I will be living them, right? I'll be like seeing them and visioning them as truth. And this is super, super powerful to break the patterns and to break the cycles, because we're directly reversing what those patterns are, and we're bringing them into awareness, right? We're taking them outside of the icky, sticky mess of subconscious into consciousness so that we can actually work with it. And that's when transformation and shift takes place. Okay? So this is your practice for this week, is to discover what could you have a subconscious story? Could you have a story that's really guiding your dating and your relationship life, that's keeping you safe, that's keeping you from connecting with people, that's keeping you from putting yourself out there in a more vulnerable or more visible way, whatever it is, and then start using these self-seduction lines and start living that reality instead of the other one. It's more fun, no? Yeah, I just love this shit. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. And next week, we will close this whole series off with a good friend, Sophie, who's going to come on to speak about dating apps. I'm so excited. She was a huge influence for me last summer when I started doing the whole dating process, or getting more serious about the dating process. And she really helped me get out of the funk and take things way less fucking seriously and have fun. And so I can't wait for you guys to hear what she has to share and to connect with her energy with me as well as an interview. And for anyone who wants to go deeper, who wants to go through this process because you're not sure what the story is, we can help figure it out. The work that I do is somatic. So what I'm teaching you is the surface stuff. It's the kind of stuff you can go and figure out online if you want anywhere, right? You can go read about this kind of thing online, absolutely anywhere, watch YouTube videos. But the work that I do with clients is somatic. So you can't do this online. You have to do it with a person. And this is when we go to tap into what are the sensations in your body when you start feeling this story? Where does it live? What is it trying to tell you? We start to really get into the nitty-gritty of what's happening in your experience so that you can come out with tools that help empower you to be and remain confident in your dating and relationship life. So reach out in a DM if you want a session. I've got single sessions available right now around this specific topic. And I'm looking forward to connecting. Okay. So many exciting things. I can feel summer is coming. And I love doing this. So I will see you next week with Sophie, and lovely, lovely, lovely day to all of you.